Hi guys, welcome back. So this is the video in continuation of a series of implementation of Splunk in Scratch. So in my last video, we have talked about what all types of implementations are there, in, standalone, distributed, cluster. In cluster, there are single site cluster, multi-site cluster, and we also talked about cloud. So it was a brief video. Now uh, we will talk. Also, I have explained about installing uh, Splunk on standalone server. So this is a brief about that, where on the standalone in one machine I have installed Splunk. I explained how to install, and from one machine itself, it will work as search head, indexer, monitoring console, and license master. So there are few components which are only applicable only in the distributed or cluster environment. So those are masters. So we'll talk about them in detail when we move forward. So in last video, I have talked about standalone, or I explained about standalone uh, Splunk, where as you can see here, it will act as a indexer where the data is going to ingest through a data source. So this is the data source, and uh, data is going to ingest into Splunk in only in single instance. Now that data can be searchable from the client. Client can be anything. Like a browser from where you can access. The end user will be sitting on the client, and then he can access it through 8000 port. So can access it through 8000 port. Now uh, the user can search the data, create a reports and dashboard through that data which is ingested from the input. Okay, now again, but this standalone server will act as a monitoring console, where you need to set up a monitoring console and you will check the health of the system through standalone server. Again, it will have a license. So till 60 days you will have a free license. After that it will goes to a free, uh, like a free version of Splunk, where it will have the limitations, and there are several limitations of it. So these are the overall components which are required in standalone servers, and also this type of uh, setup we use in POCs, small scale industries, and if you want to learn Splunk, so you can set up these things. So let's move in this video. I am going to explain about the distributed environment. So as I explained in the previous video, like not in video, previous topic that we have covered the standalone one. Now we are discussing about the distributed environment. So I will make the things easy. If anybody is following my videos, then he can understand how Splunk moves from standalone to a simplified uh, distributed environment. Then we move towards the complex distributed environment, and then cluster and single site cluster, multi-site cluster, and cloud. We will deep dive into that. So this particular video is about distributed wind environment where we have split the roles of search head and indexer in separate instances. So in previous explanation, search head is carrying the roles of all the components of Splunk. Now what we have done is we have split search head and indexer in the separate servers, the role of it, and also search head we will make it as a license monitoring console where we can check the health of the system, and also we apply the license over here. So it can be a license master, or some other component. uh, so in distributed, we are handling two components, so it is not necessary to have other managers which deploys the configuration to uh, searched and indexer. So as in when we go to a complex environment where we have more than one component, so I will talk about the managers who handle the configurations with respect to these components. So it's very simple. Just we split. We will install will install Splunk on one of the machine, and then search it on one of the machine. Uh, we assign uh, indexer as a search peer to search head, and then search head we will assign some other roles like monitoring console. It can be currently I'm not doing that, but it can be used as uh, monitoring console and license master and some other component, some other managers. So from indexer, the data will ingest to indexer through inputs. It will ingest. There can be a there can be a multiple inputs, and that data can be stored on the indexer. And once the data is stored on the indexer, it it is searchable from the search head. For that, we need to add it as a peer to search it. So user can create searches, create a graph, do some analysis, create reports, alerts, and everything. So it's like once data is ingested, if you are following my video, it's very easy to search it from search it cluster. Now the front end always will be search it. The end user will be using SearchHead to search and reporting, and the admin uh, will have access to indexer and SearchHead both. So this is just think about a storage of a Splunk storage, where the data is getting stored in the file, and data can be searchable for long run. So as in when data inputs comes in to Splunk, it will store in indexer and it will be searchable. So it's very as I'm going step by step, it's very easy step. uh, just splitting from standalone one server to multiple servers. So in near videos, I will talk about more than one indexer, maybe one indexer, two indexer, three indexer, four indexer, and then we'll move to one search it talking to multiple indexer, two search it talking to multiple indexer, and so on. So let's move into, I guess this is understood. If you have any questions or any confusion, just uh, put it in comment. Whenever I get time, I will answer those questions. Now, let's move ahead uh, on the demo part. I will, as I explained, I will run through installing of indexer and installing of SearchHead. Then we will make the single instance of indexer as a peer node to SearchHead, and data should be searchable from indexer. So currently we are not ingesting the data, but if the data is, if indexer is listed in the internal indexer, so that means the data is coming from that. There is a flow of there is a uh, flow between these two components. So let's begin with the demo. Server where I am going to install SearchHead. So let's do clear screen. Okay. Now in this video, I'm going to install Splunk as root user, but I request you guys not to install Splunk with the root user in production environment. This is for only for learning purpose. So I'm installing and installing it as a root user. So how to install Splunk with the Splunk user with having limited permission? I have created video. The last video is on installing Splunk on standalone. So similarly, you need to perform this activity when you create a SearchHead, install Splunk on SearchHead. Also, there are two instances should be there, and uh, 8089 port should be enabled. Then 9997 port should be enabled on indexers. So these are few ports it should be enabled, and these ports should be enabled on all. It's good to enable on all the servers, all the instances, but if you don't enable it on 8000 port, if you don't enable on indexer, that is fine, because generally in production environment we are not going to use web UI uh, to access indexers. And also the prerequisite when you are uh, commissioning your servers. So let's begin. So I'm not going to create a user, or so these are the steps I followed when I installed standalone server. So I will directly jump uh, into installing wget. Hit yes. Okay, this is installed. Now I will fetch the Splunk. So this is done. This is almost done. And then directly I will go and install Splunk with root user. I request you not to install Splunk with root user. So Splunk is installing, it is extracting all the packages. Now I need to accept the licenses and check and give the passwords, admin user and password. Okay, so it is installing. So let's see whether it is installed. Bin Splunk status. So yeah, Splunk is running. So I need to log into GUI and check whether Splunk instance is accessible or no. So this is currently the name is SearchHead, but currently it is a standalone server. So I will install Splunk on Indexer and then move to configure it. Okay. So now I will install Splunk on Indexer. So let me run install wget. Okay, so this is done. I'll clear a screen, then download Splunk. So let's Splunk is downloaded. I will directly run this command without any further delay. So this is installing. Meanwhile, I'll copy the command to accept the license and start Splunk. So it will ask for admin password, admin username password. So this is the password you need to set for admin. So the Splunk standalone server is installed and on standalone machine. So I'm assuming. So we have already installed SearchHead and Indexer on standalone server. Now when you are using SearchHead, what you need to do is IP address of SearchHead and then colon 800. So once you do it, it will show you a login page where you have to give the credentials when you have installed Splunk. So that will be your admin credential. Now this is SearchHead. So ignore if any messages are coming, and this part will be your indexer. So again, the IP address and 8000 port, admin credentials and password. Mm, so it's working. Now what we can do is we can uh, disable web UI for indexer right away if required. That is not required in a demo instance, or it's depend on the organization to organization whether they have the security policy or whether they want to disable. But in most of the cases the indexer GUI is disabled. So just what you can do is from here go to setting, let me settings, server settings, general setting, and then uh, on Splunk web it should be uh, run Splunk web, yes or no. Just click on yes and no, and then save. uh, then just you need to restart from backend. It will, let's restart it from backend if we can. So this is indexer. Okay, I will restart it. Pop Splunk bin Splunk restart. So once this is come up, the web UI will not be accessible. Meanwhile, we have indexer IP address, and we can add this indexer as peer node to uh, SearchHead so that it will act as a distributed environment with uh, single SearchHead and single indexer. Now from settings, you need to go to distributed search. So distributed search, distributed setting, if it is by default is enable, but in case it is not enabled, just you need to click on turn on distributed environment, yes. Now to add indexer as a search peer, just click on add or go to this settings, click new search, https, and you need to give the port number 8089. Make sure the 8089 communication should be there from indexer to SearchHead. If it is not there, the things will not work. Okay, let's see if our indexer has restarted. There, this is restarted. Now if I will check it, yeah, UI is not enabled. Okay, let's go back to settings. Now here you have to give the admin. You need to create admin level user, or direct you can use admin credentials here. So apologies if you have confused between when I started this, but we are on the process of adding SearchHead. adding indexer as a search it peer to search it. So we went here, distributed environment, we have given the peer URI, that is indexer IP address and the management port. Now here we will get the credentials. It should work. Yeah, it is. It worked. Now what we can do is to verify. How to verify? Go to search. One is so verification how it should be done. One, the status should be up, successful replication status, and the health status should be healthy. And the second one, we need to go to index equal to internal index. So the data should be searchable from SearchHead and the SearchHead and indexer. So by this it is proved that whenever the data is on the indexer 1, it will be searchable from SearchHead. So it is like a distributed environment with one SearchHead and uh, one indexer. So moving forward, we will deep dive into complex one. In further video, I will ingest the data uh, in the indexer, and then we will search the data in from the searcher with the same distributed environment. Same or maybe more than one indexer distributed environment. So this is the very simplest example of distributed environment where just we have, as I explained, just we have shifted one role of Splunk to one role of Splunk to another instance. We made one search head. Let's go to this diagram. We made one search head, and yeah, so one search head and one indexer. So now in further videos, in moving forward, we will ingest the data in Splunk that should be searchable from SearchHead, and user can easily search that data. So also as and when we move further, we'll deep dive into complex concepts of Splunk. Okay. So also I covered about the disabling web UI in Splunk. So how we can do it. Okay, this data is searchable from indexer, so we are good with the health and everything. Here we have already checked about the health of peer searches, search peers. So his state is up and running, replication is I'm repeating it again and again so that you will have a better understanding of distributed environment. So that's it about this video. Hope you are enjoying this series. So stay tuned with me for the complex distributed environment where I will connect it through where I will explain about connecting more than one indexer with the search it, and maybe we'll talk about multiple search hits are uh, talking to multiple indexer and so on. So thanks a lot for watching.